Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode 203 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. We're coming at you again from our coronavirus quarantine. It is me, Jason Evans, in Atlanta, Georgia. Sam, you there you at Duke still, right?
I am in Durham. I am in the midst of classes. I am trying to keep up with everything and staying safe. So good to hear from you and good to be here. And I'm glad that we get to keep doing the show. And I think today is a fun episode.
Oh, boy, is it ever. And Donald, where are you now, Donald? You were in Charlotte. Are you still there?
I'm still in Charlotte. Yep. Still quarantined. We are, it's cool because the weather has been very nice lately. So I've been able to get out in the backyard, take some walks and really be able to stay sane throughout all this. But as Sam mentioned, it is good to be able to keep doing this as kind of a break in the action. I don't know what day it is. So this is a good time to always remember what day it is.
In case anyone isn't taking this whole thing seriously yet, if you have been to Durham anytime in the last few years, I know this is happening all over the place that small businesses and restaurants and things are closing. Even Monuts closed last week. So if you've been to Durham and you've been in Monuts, you know what a special place it is, and that's not open anymore. So folks, please take all the precautions that are being lobbed at you because even our most venerable institutions are under threat by the coronavirus.
If everyone keeps doing this, then we won't have to do it as long. There is a summer coming, and I think some people want to be able to enjoy some of it. And if we keep shirking these guidelines and suggestions, then we're going to be here for the rest of the year. So we want to see.
I want to go back to Monuts, most importantly.
Exactly.
So help me by staying inside.
There we go. So in just a couple moments, folks, we have an interview with two former Dukies, one of whom has a national championship ring. They've got some great stories to tell you, and we're going to bring that to you in just a couple moments. Before we do have a little bit of roster news that we need to talk about. It was just about a week ago that we were here telling you about the newest Blue Devil, Patrick Tape, who was coming to us from Columbia, a big man who was going to be the first grad transfer in Duke program history. And now it turns out we are not getting him. He kind of committed and then changed his mind. There's some rumors flying around about what happened there. I've heard some talk that maybe he was a little concerned that he wasn't going to get a lot of playing time at Duke. Shows you how quality our roster is. But Donald, I'll go to you first. I mean, we thought we were going to get this kid. We thought he was going to be one of the answers on the inside. Unfortunately, he's not.
Yeah, and I don't know any of the specifics. I don't think any of us know the specifics about why he committed and decommitted in the span of like a week's time. But it's unfortunate that we won't see him in a Duke uniform next year. What this means, I guess, as far as big men is concerned, at the 5, it means Mark Williams is the penciled-in starter, most likely at that position. There's really he was the competition with Tape in that area. So it'll be interesting to see what this means down the line. If it means that Matthew Hurt, for example, may be coming back and could be filling in a little bit of that role. But it was interesting to me that he committed and decommitted in such a short time period. And it probably means that decommitting doesn't necessarily mean you're not coming. It just means you reopen your commitment. But I think in this case, it seems like he's gone.
Yeah, the whole timeline here is a little confusing to me because, like we said last week, he wasn't, I don't think, under any rush to commit. Then he does, and now he's gone so quickly. Duke had one other story similar to this, which was the whole Carrick Felix saga, which took place 6-7 years ago, where we're potentially getting a graduate transfer or a JUCO transfer who was going to be joining the Blue Devils, committed, and then it ended up not coming to Duke and going elsewhere. This is one of those stories that I think we'll look back and remember that it happened, and it'll be sort of one of those bizarre footnotes in Duke basketball history that Patrick Tape was committed to the Blue Devils for 15 minutes and then decided to leave. Hopefully, it means that there is some other interesting news coming from elsewhere on the roster. Jason alluded to some rumors. Why don't we just acknowledge that I think one of the strong rumors is that Matthew Hurt might be considering coming back. He hasn't announced anything yet. Cassius Stanley was making comments on social media this week, along with Joey Baker and the Duke men's basketball official account. We're talking about Cassius Stanley, but in vague, supportive terms. So we don't know what that means yet. As of this recording on Saturday at noon, we don't know what Cassius Stanley is doing. Like I said, we don't know what Matthew Hurt is doing. We don't know what Wendell Moore is doing. Technically, Vernon Carey hasn't even left for the NBA yet. So things are very much still in flux for the Duke roster, and I'm sure this will not be our last update about it.
Well, and the two things that I would say about this, first of all, regarding Patrick Tepe, the roster is very full for next year. And even though we look at it and we go, oh, there aren't a lot of traditional big men, guys that play in the post. Look, we know college basketball has been evolving and changing. Pro basketball has probably already changed. Big men are not at a premium that they once were. And there are possibilities that Duke's going to have, 11 guys who feel like they deserve minutes next year. We had 10 guys this year, I guess 11 if you count J-Rob, who came on late in the season. It is a full roster. So, again, even though you look at it and you go, ooh, where the big men minutes going to come from? It's not out of the realm of possibility that Coach K just sort of goes, look, I'm putting my best, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys out there for the most part. And if it's not a big man, we'll figure it out.
Or if there's only one big man who is notionally filling that role, and you have 3 wing players and a point guard, that this would not be the first time that Duke is employing a roster like that.
While we're on the roster, I should note that we did get a preferred walk-on yesterday.
Yes.
Kaysen Pierce, a 6'7" guy from Greensboro, announced that he was coming to Duke as a preferred walk-on. This is, sort of the thing like Justin Robinson. We probably will see him redshirt this year and stay for 5 years, but I don't know. I don't think that had anything to do with the pay at all. In fact, I'm going to go on a limb and say it didn't, but that is another roster spot that is taken up by someone else.
Well, although walk-ons like that, they're not taking up a scholarship unless they decide to give them one down the road. But
Coach K doesn't generally keep lots of walk-ons on the bench. So even if and to tease a little bit, we will hear one of our guests reference this in the upcoming interview. But Coach K doesn't just have lots of spaces on the bench. There's usually only 1, 2, maybe 3 walk-ons on the team, and that's about
we have 4
this year. So, and that's about as big as I can ever remember it being.
Yeah, 4, and 2 of them are going to be redshirt freshmen, and the other one is a freshman. I agree. Pierce will probably he'll probably redshirt. It's pretty unlikely guys like this that they contribute anything but garbage minutes and practice minutes. Not that there's not a value in practice minutes, but anyway, this is the perfect way, I think, to segue into our interview. We're going to be joined in a couple moments by Andy Means and Chris Duhon. All of you have probably heard of Chris Duhon. You have to be a little bit of a Duke fan from a little ways back to have heard of Andy Means. He was a walk-on on the team in the early 2000s. But let's take you now to our interview. This is a great interview, folks. You're going to love it. A lot of insight into what it's like to be a Duke player from Chris Duhon and Andy Means. So the DBR podcast is thrilled to welcome 2 guests. We've never done this before, have we? 2 guests at the same time. Joining us is 2 of the legends of the early aughts, Chris Duhon and Andy Means. Now, I'm sure everybody kind of knows Chris. Andy, no offense. Andy was a walk-on. Hey. He was Chris's roommate for a couple years. He was a walk-on on the team. Chris, of course, won a national title and was a point guard for 4 years and played in the, wait, actually, did you play in the NBA?
Yeah.
For 9 years?
Yeah, you played in the NBA for a while, man, right? What the hell's wrong with me?
You need to change the title of this website and podcast. I don't think you're following stuff, man.
Also, Jason, this is the most important thing. They are part of the best class in Duke history, the class of 2004.
Donald, I was just going to say that. I was going to say, Donald, why don't you kick off the questions for Chris and Andy because you're their classmate.
Absolutely. Okay, so Chris and Andy, first of all, thank you guys for joining us, fellow Class of 04 members. Glad to see you guys. Chris, I'm going to start with you. We were freshmen, we obviously won the national championship in 2000, 2001. When you joined, you were a freshman kind of walking into a machine with a bunch of talented players. What were practices like as a freshman walking into that fray?
Man, I mean, practices were intense. We had a lot of guys competing for playing time, especially early on. But then, obviously they had a great, core and nucleus from the year before. Kind of the only main guy that wasn't there from the year before was Chris Carrawell. He graduated as a senior. So all those guys played a lot of minutes together. So it was pretty much, everybody was focused on that, we had a good chance of winning the national championship. And, practices were intense. Practices were preparing ourselves to make that long haul.
And Andy, you joined the team shortly after, and you kind of walked into this national championship team, but you also had, both of you had a bunch of players above you that were, world-class athletes. And then you also became the veterans on the team to be able to pass down, your knowledge. So what did you learn from guys like Jay Will, Dunleavy, Dante Jones, and how do you bring that to the next generation like JJ Sheldon and Lil Deng?
Yeah, well, I mean, to speak on what you just asked Chris about the competitiveness, like when I got to work out with them that freshman year for like a week or so, and I thought I was just a little out of my shoes, man. Like that's they gave me the opportunity to make the team that year, and I just told them, like, I thought there was too many people, and I just thought I wouldn't, and there was just so much talent there. So I just put my student cap on for my freshman year and just decided to do that.
Wait, Andy, I want to be clear. So you could have been part of a national championship and you opted not to?
I don't even know if I would have even made the team. They had like 16 guys already on the team. So I didn't know if it was just they had a spot in the room with Chris and Andre Sweet. And maybe it would have been, I just would have ended up being a manager or something, but it worked out great because freshman year was probably one of my favorite years. And it was the one year I didn't play. So I don't know trust me, I don't have any regrets. I know they won a championship that year and we got close our senior year, but it just, things happen for a reason. And, I didn't end up doing it that year, but I'm glad I did the next three. And yeah, it was weird because you go from that, just kind of trying not to step on toes and trying to be quiet. And then you blink and then it's senior year and you're looked to for some leadership. So it was quite a ride.
Coming back from that national championship in 2001, what's the motivation? Like, how do you guys get yourself motivated to go out and try and win another one and be successful? Andy, I'll give that to you since you were joining kind of at that moment.
Well, I think the rally cry was let's win one for Means since he didn't play last year. So that's pretty. No, I don't know. It's weird because coach is so good at that stuff. He treats every season as its own ride, as its own journey. So it's not like you don't want to get in we're defending something thing. You want to get in. We want to go win one for everyone here. So we had new guys each year, and that was the case. Like we had Daniel Ewing. That was his freshman year. Daniel Ewing didn't win one the year before. So like every season is its own ride, and basically when you treat every day like he treats every day, which is so how can I get better each day? That kind of just works itself out, and we have a target on our backs anyway. So like the fact that we won the year before didn't really matter, everyone's going to try to knock us off every night.
And Chris, same question. Like, you came in, you had started to become a starter on the team as a point guard towards the end of the season. Now you're in a backcourt with Jay Will. You guys are the two starters, established starters at that point. How was it harder for you? Was it more difficult, or did you guys enter that season saying, hey, we can, we're still the best team in the country and someone's got to knock us off our perch?
Yeah, I mean, that was our mindset. We still felt like we had the best talent, in the country, best team in the country. Obviously, losing Shane Battier and, Nate James, who were two big, important factors for us winning, and also hard to replace. But we had Dante Jones who was sitting out that year, so we were real confident that he could step up and do some things for us, and then also bringing in a kid like Daniel Ewing as well. So we were just as confident. We know it was just going to look a little different, but we felt going in that we still was the best team in the country.
Okay, be honest. In 2002, we're playing Indiana.
Mm.
It's the last 4 seconds of the game.
Mm.
Will makes the three-pointer, misses the free throw. Boozer grabs the ball. Was he fouled?
I thought he was fouled.
Hell yeah!
I thought he was fouled. Watching the tape again, I thought he was fouled. But kind of what Coach mentioned afterwards. In those times, like you can't. I thought he went up a little bit softer than he normally goes up. Like he definitely had time to. I think the clock went faster in his head than it actually went. And he had time to kind of gather himself and like really go up and make a strong play. Because Boozer's big as hell, so little contact usually never bothers him at all. I think the time kind of rushed him a little bit to where he thought he had to go quicker than he really had to.
We never should have been in that position though in that game, don't you think, Chris? I thought that team. That's that team alongside the 1999 team. To me, I was like, these guys are winning a national title, and both times I was wrong. I hate that.
We were killing them. I think we were up 20 at most of the game pretty much. And then the thing that we kind of prided ourselves that we usually dominate was teams going in zone, and they went in zone and we had no answer for it. And that was still kind of baffling to us. And I think that kind of threw us off psyche-wise because we were, always so good shooting the basketball from three, and a zone should never affect us. And, when shots weren't going in and they kind of made a run, we just mentally wasn't able to overcome that.
Okay, so the last question on our career at Duke, you can take a time machine back to 2000 to 2004. You can change one thing about your college experience. What is that one thing? Andy, I'll start with you, and then Chris, you can chime in.
Okay.
I forget what I said earlier. I said everything happens for a reason, but I think now I will change my answer to say that I would have played on the championship team.
Smart. That's a good one. Chris?
Good answer.
But who knows though, but maybe like if I'm in practice, maybe someone lands on my foot and rolls an ankle and then you never know what happens. So maybe they didn't win it if I'm there. Or maybe I'm so terrible I bring the team down and they don't win it.
Let's say that. Let's say then you feel that way, but everyone else is glad that you weren't on the team.
Everyone else should be glad because they ended up winning. So I took one for the team, took one for the university.
There you go.
It's funny. It's obviously that Indiana game. I think if we take care of business there, we're back-to-back champions. Because we already kind of had a psyche over Maryland. Anyway, playing them, tough for the last 2 years during that time. And then, I think we could matched up with Syracuse or Kansas. Or is I'm sorry, that's 2003. I forgot who Maryland ended up beating.
Indiana and Maryland were in the championship game. So
I think that was a wasted opportunity for us that, we should have been back-to-back champions for sure that year.
Chris, I want to transition a little bit and ask you about your NBA career. You played in the league for 9 years. I think most prominently with the Bulls, but you played for a few different organizations. What was it like making the transition from being, All-American star player at Duke to being in the league with all the, you came into the league with a lot of other talented players. You came in around the same time as guys like LeBron James, Chris Paul. What was it like making that transition, and what was sort of the hardest part of that?
Obviously it was a dream. It's something that you worked hard for, and for it to come about. Obviously you was excited, but again, you're going against the best talent in the world. Each and every night, and it was fun and challenging at the same time. I think what helped me transition kind of quickly and easier was because our team was very, very young. Kirk Heinrich was in his second year. Ben Gordon was in my draft class, Luol Deng. Myself, we picked up Andres Nocioni from Argentina, so it was technically his rookie year as well. And, we had Tyson Chandler, Eddie Curry, who, although it was their fourth year, they both came out of high school, so I'm older than both of them. So it was a really, really young team. We had some great veterans in Antonio Davis and Othello Harrington and Eric Piakowski, and a tough coach in Scott Skiles, which I was already familiar with, that type of coaching style with Coach K. And he kind of coached us like a college team. I mean, he coached us like a college team because we were so young. A lot of us came from great college programs, UConn, Kansas. So they're kind of used to it as well. So we just kind of embraced it, and it kind of became our identity. And it just taught me how to continue. You got to play hard. I mean, playing the point guard position was not an easy position to play. When you have Allen Iverson on Monday, then Jason Kidd on Tuesday, and then you take a break, and then you get Steve Nash, and then you get Gilbert Arenas. So just developed in a mindset that you got to go out and play hard every single day, because the talent that you're going against is the best in the world. I think having Scott Skiles as my coach during that time really helped prepare me for my journey during that time.
Hey, Chris, let me jump in. Who was the toughest guy you played against? Who's the guy that you're like, you look at the schedule like, oh God, I don't want to play him?
Well, so it was kind of different those years because Kirk and I, Ben Gordon was allergic to defense. So, it was pretty much.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yo, I'm a Pistons fan. I can verify.
It was pretty much, I love BG. BG was the man. But it was pretty much Kirk and I, we kind of switched. So, not only were we guarding point guards, we were guarding two guards. So we would guard the Kobe's. We would guard the LeBrons. We would guard, the Ray Allens, when he was in Seattle and he was Ray Allen, Jesus Shuttleworth. So the toughest as far as a point guard, it was two. It was Gilbert Arenas, just because, I mean, he could shoot it from 50 like it was a free throw.
He was physical.
You could get to the basket. I think he was always one of the top guys leading, getting to the free throw line because he could get to the basket, shoot from anywhere, both ways, off the dribble, didn't matter. He also,
I would assume that Gilbert had a little bit of PTSD anytime he saw you or Jason Williams or any of those other guys across the floor from him, right?
Yeah, you know what? Gilbert really never cared about that national championship. Like, I was teammates with him in Orlando, and he was like, man, bro, I was already thinking about the league. I didn't give a damn if we won or not.
Wow.
So I don't think he really cared that much. He was more into what he was going to do in the league. So yeah, he was one. And then Chauncey Billups was another one, just because it was a different style. You go against, Chris Paul and J Kidd and all these guys, they're more up and down floor leader, to where Chauncey's game was real slower. Obviously, he could shoot the basketball really well, but then he also posted up. He was a guy that can bring you into the post and score in the post. So that was a game where you had to be a little bit more physical and know that you're going to spend a lot of time in the post, and you got to do a good job of trying to stop him in the post. So those two were two of my toughest challenges, and the ones that, I really had to make sure my shoestrings were tight and real tight when I played against those two.
I want to bring Andy back in the conversation, and I want to ask you both a little bit. Chris, you mentioned that the transition to playing for Scott Skiles and playing in the NBA was made easier by your experience at Duke. As you guys were, transitioning away from Duke, how did you stay in touch with the program? And, because you've both obviously pursued careers staying in basketball, I would imagine that the influence of having gone to Duke is a big part of that, sort of on an ongoing basis. So how did you stay in touch with the program in the years after you left, be it in the NBA or in other pursuits?
Yeah, I'll start. First and foremost, like, a lot of my best friends now are guys that I played with or guys I went to school with. So that just naturally happened just by I could have been doing whatever and I still would have been keeping in touch. But also a lot of the stuff where there's a lot of stuff that they put together, like the K Academy, I know, for like the big time former players that I'll go back for that. But just any like tournament games, or guys are always going back to games. It's always just kind of a reunion. and there are multiple reunions a year. So Miss Jerry Brown, coach's secretary, she's always kind of like been the hub, and we always like go through her to get our tickets and everything, and she kind of treats us like all of her sons. So it's been pretty easy. I mean, I can reach out to the office and be in touch with anybody, and it's been pretty seamless. So they do a great job. I mean, they say that they have the brotherhood thing, but it's not just like a marketing thing. It's like, it's true. Like they keep such a family environment. Even, I mean, what are we now? Like 15, we're 15, 16 years, almost 16 years from graduation, and you still feel like you're a part of it. So it's 100% the truth.
Man, don't be telling my age, Andy Means.
What do I have you by 20 days?
Watch the tone. Nah, just to echo what Andy was saying. I mean, everything he says is true. We have K Academy, and then also, as when we were seniors, I mean, we still grew up with JJ and Sheldon and Dockery and Lee and those guys. Like we played with those guys for 2 years, so it was special for us just to watch them mature into the players they eventually became. And we still felt like we were still a part of the team because those were our guys. Like we saw them as freshmen, we saw them grow from freshman to sophomore year, and to be able to continue to watch them grow, was also great. And then, like Andy said, K Academy, and anytime, like if they played in the city that we're close to or I was close to, if I had the opportunity, I would go catch a game, and I was always in contact with Coach. Coach and I used to talk at least once a month while I was playing in NBA. And, I would always talk to Johnny Dawkins, who was my assistant coach, and Wojo and Chris Collins. Like we always stayed in touch throughout my whole career.
You mentioned JJ Redick, and I wanted to touch on him quickly before we move to kind of the modern Duke era. Did you guys got to play with JJ in college? Did you see JJ Redick still being in the league in 2020?
I did, because I saw his transformation when we were teammates in Orlando. Because with JJ being a specialist, you have to find your niche, especially in the league, because you can see proven cases for for instance Jimmer Fredette or Brian Morrison, guys that led their team in scoring, could shoot the basketball when they were in college, but they were getting all the shots. They could shoot it anytime they want, and they're going to play so many type of minutes, to where in NBA, when you're not the guy, you got to be efficient. When you get your opportunities, you have to take advantage of your opportunities. And I think going in, when I became teammates with JJ, I saw that he was starting to figure that out, and he did an amazing job of really taking care of his body, being in the best shape, really perfecting his craft. And I think that's what helped him get over that hump, because he started to play better. He started to defend a little bit better. He was more confident shooting the basketball. And, that translates. If you could shoot the ball in the league, there's going to always be a spot for you in the league. And, he already had a really good basketball IQ. So once he found his niche and he became consistent at it, I felt that he could play, for however long as he wanted to play.
Andy, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, for me, I just wanted to point out with him is like he gets a reputation for not being a good defender, and that's why maybe like even early on in his career that maybe his minutes were limited. But if you actually watch him, like focus on him every single game he plays, and it's easier to say this now that he's been a veteran in the league a lot longer, but he's always in the right position as a team defender. So like that's underrated, as even in the league. I think people underrate how much team defense and team scheme is factored into how good a defense is. It's not just all individual matchups, and he is literally always in the right spot. So that I think that helped elongate his career a little bit.
So looking more at the last few years of Duke basketball, there's been I think a transition that people outside the program see, where guys now, predominantly the best players on the team, are coming in as freshmen and they're leaving after 1, maybe 2 years. Back when you guys were in the program, Luol Deng being something of an exception to this, because I think he had his own circumstances. But for the most part, players like Shane Battier, Chris Duhon, JJ Redick were staying for 3-4 years. Jason Williams even staying for the 3 years and graduating and going to the NBA. Do you think that the program has changed its philosophy around recruiting and development, or do you think that it's more just a function of the landscape changing underneath Duke and Coach K saying, look, I still want to recruit McDonald's All-Americans. This is the way to do it. How do you kind of to see that transition having gone, and also then like looking at the program now and seeing guys like Zion Williamson and Marvin Bagley and all these guys who just come and stay for 1 year?
I'll start. I think, this is speculation on my part. I don't talk to Coach personally weekly about his personal recruiting strategy or anything, but it's pretty clear he is going for the best players, and it just so happens that these days that those guys are going to stay for 1 year because it would be silly not to go and start your professional career as soon as possible, especially for the elite of the elite. If you look back in a couple of years after us, you can make the argument that he was going for guys that were maybe a tier below that, and that was kind of there were some early exits there. So maybe he decided, I'm just going to get the best talent. If that means they're staying 1 year, if that means they're staying 4 years, I just want to get the best talent. I'm still going to recruit guys I want to coach. I still want to recruit high character guys. I still want to recruit guys that are deserving of wearing the Duke uniform. But I think it's pretty clear that the strategy has changed. Yeah.
I don't think so much the strategy has changed. I think his mindset of accepting it has changed, because kind of to echo what Andy said, he was looking for guys that, wanted to be a part of Duke. And he didn't want people to be like, all right, I'm going to use Duke to, go and, create my own brand and then go and get drafted. He was always wanting to make Duke a special place where you come and you just do your job, and all that other stuff was going to happen, anyway, just because of the brand that he already created. I think a lot of it now is just the times have changed, with the AAU and with everybody, in these kids' ears. Like, if you take the top 100 kids right now out of high school, all 100 of them think they're one and done, and that's just the mindset of those kids. And I think, not only Duke, but every coach and every program has to adjust to that, to know that that's the mindset of these kids. These kids want to get to the NBA as quick as possible. And so I think Coach, kind of tempered his expectations. But if you think about it, he's still recruiting the same top kids. Grant Hill could have been a one and done. Elton Brand could have been a one and done. Jay Will could have been a one and done, but that wasn't our mindset. Our mindset, we had more, hey, we're going to Duke because we want to win a national championship. And, that meant something to us, to where I don't believe it's the same thing for these kids now. Like, if they do win one, that's just kind of icing on the cake, but they're just trying to drive their stock up as much as possible so they can to get drafted. If you look at it now, there's, these guys, there's like 60 people putting their names in the draft that are underclassmen, and there's only 60 draft spots, so, when we would leave, I would say back in my era and before, you were leaving if you were guaranteed lottery. That's why Mike Dunleavy left. Dunleavy left because he knew he was going to be the third pick of the draft. Like, okay, you got to go. Jay Will left because he knew he was going to be 1 or 2 pick in the draft, and so on. So, that was kind of a pride thing. Like, you wasn't leaving unless you knew that you were going to be a lottery pick. But now kids are just leaving because maybe they don't want to do school, or, whatever their circumstances are. Kids already have in their mind when they get there that it's, I'm trying to get to the NBA as quick as possible.
All right, Chris, I've got one more quick question for you about coming back to Duke. When did the Cameron Crazies stop doing the Duhon cheer? And did you feel old when you realized that they weren't doing it anymore? When did it stop?
Yeah, it has stopped. Because now, like, going back to Duke games is like a production now. Like, they have the screen with the, they show videos and things like that. Like, everything is ran like completely different. Like, student section doesn't really feel like the student section like it was when I was there. I
They
would
play
say,
hip hop now. They play hip hop now, and they play like '80s when we were there.
yeah,
80s music
that,
is great stuff, man.
yeah. So I would say, because I'm trying to think of a game. I know I was at Cameron when JJ broke the scoring record. I think the ACC scoring record when I think they played Miami his senior year, and I remember him doing that. But I don't remember being in Cameron for a game until after I was done. So
There was a long transition for all the students that would have known you or like been around during your time to have graduated and moved on.
yeah.
Okay.
So all the other Duke games we would catch would be either ACC tournament or one of the games, or usually they play in New York, earlier in the season, or one of the tournament games. So
Did you ever and then my last question about the cheer, did you ever get upset that DeMarcus Nelson co-opted the cheer? Because then they started doing D Mark for him. So
no,
was that
no,
you or your
no. DeMarcus was my guy. So and we wore the same number, so it only made sense.
All right, we're going to be back with Andy and Chris in just a moment. In fact, I'm going to ask them about their favorite Coach K memory, but we have to take a short break first. So have a listen to this. Okay, guys. So, Chris, one thing we didn't get to ask you about earlier regarding your time at Duke that I realized as we were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to ask him about. You mentioned that you felt like you kind of owned Maryland. We got to ask about the Gone in 57 Seconds game. I mean, there are certain games that are legendary. Considering that game was not a tournament game and not a game against Carolina, it is as memorable as just about any game out there. Talk to me about, there's a minute left. Did you think we had a chance? Were you even paying attention to the score? Did you realize what was happening?
Yeah. So, I mean, this was, Coach is big on like, believing in him and believing in something bigger than you and things like that. And, we've been preaching about it all year. But, you still got to remember, I'm a freshman, so I'm still haven't completely bought into, everything as far as, listen to Coach, believe in me, trust in what I say, and, things will work out. But, going into that game, Coach in practices and before we win, Coach is like, hey, we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. And then,
but he always says that, right? I mean, that's Coach K. He's always going to say that.
He doesn't. He for whatever particular reason, this game, because I think just of how good Maryland was playing at the time, and going to Maryland, which was a tough place to play at. It was something I think he just felt that he had to tell us. And, we're down at halftime, and that was his main thing. We're going to win this game. We're going to win this game. So we get down to, late in the game, and we're losing, and we're in the huddle, and he's still repeating it. We're going to win this game. And I'm like, man, Coach, have you seen the score? Like, shit, we get our ass with Jay Will playing like trash. Like, we ain't winning this game. So we come out of the timeout, and I'll always remember we're coming out of the timeout, and I think we were ranked number 1 in the country at that time. And the whole crowd just stands up, and they're yelling, overrated, overrated. And so we're walking out, and there's literally 2 guys in the front row that get up and turn around and like, whoa, 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 not yet, not yet. And Jay Will looks at me and he winks at me. And I'm like, what the hell are you winking at? Like, you got them playing like trash, like, and we about to lose and you winking at me. And sure enough, next thing you know, bam, layup, bam, still 3. I'm like, oh, damn, okay. Like, woke up. So then, I think we cut down 5 points in like 8 seconds or 10
Yeah.
seconds.
Oh, like 3 seconds. It was fast. It was fast. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's more realistic. Now you're able to really like believe more because you're like, all right, we're down 5 or like 40 seconds now. Now we, come down, miss a free throw, bam, Jay comes down, hits another 3. And from then on, you could just kind of see the faces of Maryland, like, oh, here we go again. And then, Steve Blake fouled out during that time. So Drew Nicholas, who's a freshman as like I was, man, we fouled him. And, Jay and I are just hounding him all the way to the free throw line. Like, oh, he going to miss. It's going to be short right. It's going to be left. We might have used, a few extra words that we probably can't use on the podcast. But, I mean, we're hounding him. And, bam, he misses the free throw. And, we're at it again. And he misses it again. And then, we come down and, I think Nate gets fouled on the tip in. We tie the game up. And then, we just knew, because we knew they were going to have the last possession. We just knew, hey, we get the stop. We get the overtime. Like, we're going to beat them in overtime, man. But, I mean, it was amazing to be a part of, amazing to see Jay Will switch, just change just like that. I mean, he was horrible that game. And all of a sudden, like he was unguardable. Like there was nothing that he can do. And then, like I said, once we got into overtime, I mean, our confidence was super high. But it just goes to attest that, like you said, Coach K during that timeout, and we're down, and he's still preaching that same message. Like, hey, you believe in me, we're going to win this game. You believe in me, we're going to win this game. And turns out he was right.
All right. So Andy, I want to go to you really quick because the only reason we're doing this is because you've been doing this exact same thing for the past couple of weeks. I know that you are. Tell folks actually, what your regular gig is and what you're doing now. We want to give you a chance to promote yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I work at a website called Roto Grinders, and we're just the leading website for daily fantasy sports players. So I've, at the past, 3 years or so, been one of their main NBA guys. So I do an article 5 days a week, and I do a live stream show leading up to the games that night, whatever NBA games there are that night. So I've been doing that for the past 3 years or so, I think, just immersing myself in NBA games and NBA advanced stats and analytics and whatnot. So couldn't ask for anything better than that, honestly. And then just with this recent pandemic and everything, sports get shut down. So if there's no NBA games, there's no NBA contests that I can write stuff on. And I just thought, I was trying to be creative and come up with some content to give the people while they're sitting at home bored. And I thought, I'm just going to tap into my network a little bit, my old teammates, and see what happens from there. So I talked to Chris, talked to Reggie Love, talked to Andy Borman, and actually just recorded one with Shane Battier the other night. So I started a podcast, and it's called Mean Streets, and you're going to see where it goes. Talk to former teammates, and then I kind of want to expand out a little bit too from that. But I don't know. It's new. I don't know if it's going to be popular. I don't know if people listen to it. I don't know if it's going to stick around, but it's fun.
Good deal, man. And hey, Chris, what are you up to these days? I know you were coaching for a little while.
Yeah, right now I'm in the NBA coaches program. So, right now their job is to kind of, or not job, but they're helping former NBA players kind of learn the ins and outs of being a coach. Now with especially is, about analytics and, all these type of things. They're teaching us to use, the different softwares that, the NBA teams use as far as like Sports Code and Synergy, and how to break down tapes, how to do a scouting report, know the analytics, something that as former players, we didn't have access to. So it's trying to help improve our chances of getting jobs because of, all these other coaches and assistant coaches that are not former players. They've been doing this for years. So they know the software, or they know all this other type of stuff. So it's just trying to help us gain an advantage of being like, hey, obviously I play and I know stuff on the court, but I can also break down film. I can also get a scout report. I also can, use all these different softwares as well. So, I'm in that type of program, and, see where that leads.
Speaking of that, just your conversation about, analytics and, and looking at, advanced, programs that tell you what's a good shot, what's a bad shot. Tell me really quick. I feel like when I watch the old games, I'm like, oh wait, that's that shot that we used to like. No one takes anymore because it's not a good shot. I mean, do you notice how much the game has changed? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, you got to give credit to Mike D'Antoni. I mean, he was the one, especially when they were in Phoenix, and I played under him when I was in New York, and just a simple post up and throw it down into the post and let the guy go and work. When you look at the analytics, that's the worst shot in basketball, and I think the thing is with the analytics, because I think the corner 3-pointer is the third best analytical shot in the game. But the number one is a layup. And if you still look at those teams with Phoenix, they led the NBA in points in the paint. It's just their layups were easy layups from backdoor cuts, and because the floor was so spread, the big is not there. So they're actually getting layups instead of throwing it into a big and then letting him go one-on-one, against the defender. So it's changed the game. It's changed how, everyone now is just trying to shoot the three. But and that's just kind of what the numbers say. But I still tell guys still the best shot is a layup. So why are you running to the 3-point line when you could get a layup? So, but yeah, this has definitely changed the culture of the game for sure.
All right, guys. So this is the moment. Every time we have former Duke players on, I ask this question. We've had some great answers over the years. Andy, I'm going to go to you first. You're about to get asked the question, which is, give me your best Coach K story. I want like he inspired the team in this crazy way, or he did this funky, crazy thing. Give me a good Coach K story, man.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth between two where I don't know.
Oh, you can give us both. You can give both.
Well, okay, I'll start with the one that, when Dante Jones was on the Levitard show and was making up all that stuff about what really happened. I had to step in and tell him what really happened. But like we watched, man, I'm trying to remember what movie it was the night before, but it was some sort of wartime movie. And we watched them because it was like we got to see it ahead of time because I think the director had to do with Duke. And so we come back to Cameron, the lights are off. He gives us a motivational speech. We have it's a night before a big game. I don't remember specifically about that meeting, but the next night before the game, we go out for warm-ups and we come back in, let's call it the 8-minute mark. And usually when we come back in, he just gives us a quick 2-minute talk, and then we go back out for, starting lineups and whatnot. But this time we come back in, the lights are off and coach isn't in there. And from down the hall from where he usually will walk in to talk to us, there's this flaming arrow that comes flying in there and lands on the floor.
A flaming arrow? Are you serious?
It's really small. It's really small, but it had something to do with the movie we saw, and it hits the floor and starts sparking the floor a little bit. And so managers come in and start patting it down and putting it out. And instead of give us an actual motivational speech and saying something, he just came in and just said let's go, and everyone got really pumped. So that would be one of them. The fact that he lit something in our locker room and threw it in there. That's something from a movie we watched before.
Dangerous. Is that was anyone concerned about the safety of this action?
Well, when we walked in, we saw the managers were all a little extra up on their toes a little bit, and they were holding towels. It's not something you really think twice about.
So they knew.
Yeah, they knew. Oh, absolutely, they knew. They were ready for any issues that were going to happen. And he just threw it in, and we see it land in front of us, and then he comes in and just said, "Let's go," and everyone gets pumped up. So that would be one for sure, because that's the most meaningful motivational thing he did. And then the other one would be for film. I love film sessions because one, I just that's the best time you can pick his brain on how he sees the game and everything. And two, since I never played, I never got in trouble. So I didn't get called out on anything. So one time, back when we were there, he was very, he didn't go outwardly say this. You just knew this from the players that were there before. Don't wear stuff under your shirt. Don't wear headbands or, stuff like that. Even all the way down to the socks. I'm not going to say who this player was, but one I got caught on film that he was wearing NBA, the socks with the NBA logo on it. And so coach pauses it on this guy, and we see the logo with the sock, and he says, he looks at the guy and says, NBA socks? He's like, I don't know about that. Maybe like D-League socks or some league in France socks, but I don't know about NBA socks. So that was my favorite.
That's hysterical.
Chris is laughing. I think he knows who it is.
Dante Jones for sure. It's funny because actually yesterday with that 2001 team, because one, we feel like we may not get honored for 20 years or whatever, because we also coincide with Coach's 30-year when he won his first national championship. So we all did like a happy hour cocktail Zoom yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with all of us on the line, and all these stories came about. So it was pretty funny that Andy chose that one, because we were actually literally just talking about that yesterday.
All right, Chris, so your turn. I got to get your best Coach K story, or if it's just give me a story about the guys and something crazy that happened while you were in school. Peel back the veil. Let us see inside.
Oh man, let me think. Yeah, so Andy told that one. So there was another one kind of similar to that. Because I kind of got cut off. Who was the team? One, the movie that we saw was We Were Soldiers.
That's what it was. Yep.
But who was what team was that we were playing?
Maybe Wake. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So I remember we were playing Georgia Tech, and the game, we played them at Georgia Tech and we won. But they were dirty. Like, we were getting elbowed, and they had this kid that was just like, coach would say punking us, even though that, we won the game. So we're about to play Georgia Tech at home, and the practices leading up, we come in, and the whole locker room is filled with the word fight. I mean, they printed out the word fight. I mean, everything. I mean, it's just white with the word fight on it. And you go to the bathroom and all the mirrors is with fight. You go to the urinal and it's fight. Like, everything is just filled with the word fight. You go try to get a bagel and it's fight. So, that was his message. And then, we're about to go play Georgia Tech. And, coach usually comes in and he talks. We normally rarely ever watch video or anything like that. And he just plays the video of, man, Dunleavy getting elbowed, and this guy getting pushed here, and this guy getting pushed here. And then turns it off. He just looks. He's like, let's go fight. And, I think we went on like a 28-2 run at the beginning of the game. Like, we were just like so amped up, and it was just one of his ways, his creative ways. It was like just trying to motivate us and things like that. So he was really good at that type of stuff.
Well, guys, this was fabulous. We've been talking for almost an hour, and I think we could talk for another hour more. It's been a ton of fun. You gave us some amazing insight into basketball and into your experiences. We are so thankful that you loaned us this time during this crazy time right now in the world. Chris, good luck with the coaching stuff.
Thank you.
And we'd love to have you back on sometime. Hopefully you can tell us about coaching players at that point. And Andy, we'll definitely have you back on. I know you analyze the NBA. When the NBA comes back, we will have you back on to talk about Dukies in the NBA, because you probably know more about that than anybody out there. So, guys, again, thanks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got a ton of them. And we will also once again plug Andy's podcast, Mean Streets. Listen to him. He has an interview with Chris, just like this one, probably better than this one. And interviews with other players. Check out his podcast out there. And guys, again, we're so thankful. We appreciate you loaning us your time today.
Thanks for having us.
I appreciate it.
So that was great. They were a ton of fun. Chris and Andy, some of those stories were just I'm so glad. Midway through the interview, we realized we hadn't asked Chris about Gone in 57 Seconds. And then he gave us such great insight into that miraculous game. I especially love the part where he said Jay Will was playing like trash and then suddenly flipped the switch. I mean, that is truly what happened in that game. But I just want to thank those guys.
Duhon has enough juice that he can criticize his teammates. I think he threw shade at Jason Williams. He threw shade at Dante Jones. So
it goes to show you that we need way more of the class of 2004 on this podcast, the greatest class to ever go to Duke University.
Hey, he actually threw a little bit of shade at Carlos Boozer. He said Carlos didn't take it up as strong as he usually does. So
he's calling out names.
You know what's cool about him and about Andy as well is that they played with or knew a lot of these other interesting characters at Duke, that sort of part of the transition from like the old school Coach K method to the new school, which is why I thought it was interesting that, the way that they talked about the changing philosophy. And so it was a neat opportunity to talk to them also in tandem because they could check each other on the storytelling.
Yeah, so they were fabulous. And again, we thank them for being on, and we thank you for listening in, folks. Please, hey, drop us a line. We're gonna try and do a mailbag sometime soon. Email us at dbrpodcast@gmail.com, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your questions. Ask us about anything you're interested in, our lives, Duke basketball, whatever it may be. We want to hear those questions, and we'll do a mailbag podcast really soon. Also, we've got more Duke guests coming up. We believe that we are going to have the landlord, Sheldon Williams, on in the next few days, and we will have that to you very, very soon. But for now, I am Jason Evans in Atlanta, Georgia. Samuel Klein is at Duke in Durham. Donald Wine is in Charlotte. We are all sheltering in place, staying safe. We hope you are as well as we all ride out this terrible coronavirus storm. All we have to say at this point is go Devils, and Duke Band, take us home.